Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of June 30th to July 5th, 2025, where I take a look at a couple of stories that caught my attention and give you my thoughts and my opinion about them. And I just want to say happy 4th of July to everyone out there. If you are, whether you're with friends or family, doing a barbecue, planning to see fireworks, whatever the case is, hopefully you have an enjoyable and safe 4th of July. And of course, a shout out to our fighting men and women in uniform as well. But anyway, we got 4 stories to cover this week, including an initiative being pushed called the Stop Killing Games. A big development this weekend on the Xbox front, as there were a lot of games that were canceled and a lot of studios being closed and layoffs, and let's just say there's a lot of finger pointing going on from depending on who you're asking. A comment made by the founders of Xbox not happy with the direction Xbox has been going though. And of course, the game keycard situation, in which supposedly the president of Nintendo answered this question, and depending on who you're asking, some may or may not agree with the answer to be exact. And if you're interested where I got the source of this information, links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this either on YouTube or Patreon, as well as the timestamps as well, if there are certain parts of this video you wish to skip to. But before we get started, I like to do what I like to call the quick My 2 Cents, stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details and all. The first one is that there's an 8-minute overview trailer for the upcoming Donkey Kong Bonanza that Nintendo has put out on their YouTube channel, which, while I am definitely looking forward to the game, I would say based on what I've seen with the 8-minute overview trailer, it's just basically a shorter version of the Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct that we had, a couple of weeks earlier, which was like 17 minutes and everything like that. So, I mean, again, I'm looking forward to getting this game. It just feels like this trailer is just nothing more than a Cliff Notes version of the DK Bonanza Direct and everything. We also learned that supposedly the folks at Sega are basically saying that there are no plans at this time to do a Sonic Adventure remaster and everything, as supposedly fans have been requesting and asking for this though. And while it may not be in the works now, supposedly at least what they are saying, it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. And given how popular Sonic has been, especially with all 3 of the live-action Sonic movies doing very well at the box office, I would say there is probably a chance that maybe one day we'll see maybe a remaster or a remake of Sonic Adventures or Sonic Adventures 2. There has been some talks about some of the folks at Sega wanting to do that, even I think mentioning Sonic 06, which, should they ever remaster or remake that game, that might need a much bigger overhaul than, say, the other 3D Sonic games out there, considering how that one was like negatively viewed and everything like that. We also are learning that supposedly Mario Kart World is being review bombed. Now, I'm not a big fan of review bombs. I don't agree with them and anything like that. But there are some who do support the review bombing nevertheless. Some are pointing towards the recent update that has happened, which isn't, let's just say, going over well with everybody out there, though that depends on who you're asking. Some are making it a big deal of this update that Nintendo did for Mario Kart World, some aren't, and this has to do with, random in terms of picking courses when you're doing like in online play or everything like that. So, I mean, depending on who you ask, some folks don't view it as a big deal, others do, but with either case though, some are just decided to review bomb Mario Kart World over this. We also learned that the developers of Dead Cells that did the roguelike Prince of Persia game supposedly has been rated for the Switch, which to me does seem to indicate that there are plans, seem to indicate that we may see this come to the Nintendo Switch. No word it will be for the Switch or the Switch 2 or anything like that, but if there's a rating popping up to it, then there's a very good chance we'll see this game come over though. We also learned the upcoming Shadow Labyrinth, which is that, let's just say, that very odd dark Pac-Man game that Bandai Namco is working on though. For those who basically get the Switch 1 version, apparently they will offer a free upgrade available that will push the game up to 4K 60, which I mean, that's not bad. If it's a free update, I'm not going to complain about that at all. So certainly nice indeed for those who opt to go with the Switch 1 version compared to the Switch 2, which there are reports coming out that the Switch 2 version could be, and I more than likely think it probably will be the case, it's going to be the game key card type of situation. I'm aware not everyone is a fan of, or has different views on game key cards in general and all. We also learned that Nintendo seems to be raising the price of the Switch 1, not Switch 2, but the Switch 1 in Canada and all. But like I said, it doesn't seem to indicate Switch 2 has been impacted by this, at least for now. That doesn't mean that down the road that could change, but at least in Canada, it seems that we may see, and they're getting a price increase though. Although it will be interesting to see if the US gets a price increase and follows suit with Canada. We also learned that WWE 2K25 has been confirmed for the Nintendo Switch 2. As some of you are aware, when 2K18 was released on the Switch 1, that got hammered really bad because of the performance and the issues that game had, although supposedly there are now claims that if you run that game on the Switch 2, it runs better. But in either case, though, that whole situation had 2K drop doing any WWE games, at least on the Switch 1. But now with the Switch 2, it does seem to throw its support behind, and it looks like they're aiming for console parity for the other versions. The only downside, however, it's now been confirmed, or at least been reported, that it is worse than a game key card. It's the empty box with a piece of paper with a code in it type of situation, which, yeah, I'm not a fan of that approach. I mean, I don't agree with that kind of approach. To me, at that point, you might as well just buy the game digitally. What's the point buying the physical version if you're not even going to have the cart in there and all? So, but that's up to WWE fans, especially for those who are thinking about getting this game for the Switch 2 and all. We are also learning that supposedly, if you probably are aware of the MIG Switch situation, though, how that has led to Switch 2's, your Switch 2 being banned and everything. Well, it seems to have caught Nintendo in some hot waters, at least in Brazil and all. And supposedly there are reports of legal actions being taken against Nintendo due to this situation, indeed. Now, how far this will go remains to be seen, though. Now, it is worth pointing out Nintendo does have a history of taking some of this stuff to court and everything. Most of the time, not every single time, but most of the time they usually will win some of these cases. But this one, I'm not 100% sure about, though. I mean, especially there have been some complaints about those who purchase what look like banned Switch 2s when they're like resold and everything. So this is going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out and all. And it'll be very interesting if let's say it gets Nintendo into more hot waters, though, whether or not they take a different approach in terms of the Switch 2s being banned or not, though. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this whole legal situation plays out for them. We also learned that despite a report coming out that basically the claim that Switch 2 may have sold 5 million, though, it turns out to be the report is that it's not accurate at all. That somehow this was just running some sort of test or something like that, but it doesn't seem like the 5 million number is 100% accurate, although there are now claims saying that the number might be higher than 5 million, but again, we still have to wait to hear what more of the numbers what number that might be. The last numbers we heard was that the Switch 2 sold around 3 million units sold worldwide. So hopefully we'll hear more numbers when we get the actual numbers coming out and all. And last but not least, though, now has been confirmed at the very least that the Donkey Kong Bonanza game is actually developed by the Mario Odyssey team, which doesn't really surprise me at all, considering when you look at the gameplay and everything like that, it definitely does take a bit of a page out of Super Mario Odyssey to a certain extent. So you do see some similarities, although some are saying they could see a little bit of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which I too don't disagree with that either. I think there is some truth to that argument as well. So not really surprised to hear the Mario Odyssey team working on this. Hopefully with this one wrapping up soon, hopefully with this one, almost done and everything, and when the game comes out supposedly sometime this month. Hopefully this means we'll get started on the next 3D Mario game, and hopefully we'll hear more about that title and everything like that. Hopefully you don't have to wait long for that one, to be exact. And in the movie and TV show part of the Quick My 2 Cent, we got another video from Marvel Entertainment in terms of the upcoming Fantastic Four first step. It's basically a first look into a short clip about in terms of making of the movie and everything. And this is definitely one on my radar. I'm keeping an eye out. I definitely like the trailer. I like the look that they're aiming for with this one, and I'm very curious to see how this one plays out in theaters. I know it will be out, I think, later this month. I think July 25th. I could be wrong on the date, but it's definitely on my definitely on my radar indeed. We also learned that Neil Druckmann will be stepping away from working on The Last of Us TV show. We'll be focusing on the Naughty Dog games, including the upcoming Intergalactic that's being worked on and all. So certainly is a little bit unfortunate, but obviously there are some other stuff he wants to do. Nevertheless, though, I'm still finishing up with the second season and all, and I'll be looking forward to see how the third season plays out. And it will also be very interesting to see once all 3 seasons are done, once they conclude covering, The Last of Us Part 2, where they go from here, if that's the end of the HBO's Max The Last of Us, or if they take a page out of True Blood and continue the series once, once the creators of True Blood finish with the book, they decide to go their own way. So we'll see if that happens or not. We also have, in terms of box office numbers, it seems, at least according to what Deadline is reporting, it seems that Jurassic World Rebirth seems to be off to a good start. The report seems to indicate that the movie right now is looking at 137 million plus, with 5 days over the July 4th stretch. They're saying that it's a very good sign with 25.3 million, negative 17 off from its opening day. The revised look now has at 137.5 million over 5 day, 81.7 million over a 3 day at 4,063 theaters. So despite getting some mixed reviews depending on who you're asking, it seems that movie seems to be off to a good start. Although it will be very interesting to see if it suffers or goes through the same situation Captain America Brave New World did, which then got off to a very good start, but supposedly dropped a bit though, although supposedly that movie is doing very well on Disney Plus and everything. Meanwhile, the live-action Lilo and Stitch apparently has now overtake at least a Minecraft movie as Disney's Best Picture, high grossing with it now at 957 million worldwide. So some of these it seems the live-action Lilo and Stitch, whether you agree with them to do this or not, seems to be doing well. So obviously good for Disney, despite the latest Pixar movie not performing very well for them, at least from what we've heard so far. So either way, I'm going to be curious to see how Jurassic World Rebirth is like when I go see that movie, hopefully on Saturday, and hopefully I'll have a review of that up on Wednesday and everything. So very curious to see how that one plays out. And last but not least, we learned that Cyberpunk Edgerunner will be getting a second season, which is kind of surprising though, because I did not expect them to do a second season on that. But in either case, I'm open to that indeed. I did enjoy Cyberpunk Edgerunner on Netflix. I thought it was not only a very good show based off a video game, but I believe this, along with some of the updates that were brought to Cyberpunk 2077 when it was going through tough times, I feel this show and the update helped save that game in a way, and I think that's a very good thing indeed. No word about any characters like Lucy, if she's going to be in it or not, though. Despite one scene in particular that I really liked and enjoyed that Lucy was in it, though, I wouldn't hold my breath to see her in it. It does sound like they're going with a new cast of characters. Also, it remains to be seen where it would take place and all. It's believed the first season of Edgerunner, some believe that it takes place before the events of Cyberpunk 2077. remains to be seen where this one will take place and all. But in either case, I am looking forward to the second season of Cyberpunk Edge Runner, and I believe it will still be on Netflix. I think they did the first season, so I believe the second season will happen. So I'm all ears on this one for the second season and all. Okay, with the Quick My 2 Cent part now done, along with the movie and TV show part of the Quick My 2 Cent, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with the game key cards and supposedly the response the president of Nintendo has made in response to a certain question about it. Now, one of the most controversial things we've seen so far with the Switch 2, there may be some other things as well, and this depends on who you're looking at though, it's been the issue regarding game key cards, where basically it's not the full game into it, but instead you use the cartridge you put into the Switch 2, and then it basically downloads the game and everything. Now, there has been arguments against this, some who are in the more game preservation side of the situation, as many don't like this approach, especially when you see a game like Cyberpunk 2077, where CD Projekt Red was able to put the entire game along with Phantom Liberty into the 64-bit video game, into the 64-bit gigabit cartridge and all. On the other hand, when compared to what we have seen, at least from my point of view, what we've seen during the Switch 1 era, where we had the empty box with a code on a piece of paper, as I mentioned, WWE 2K25 is a good example that we might be seeing that though. I will say the game key cards are sort of the lesser of the two evils, as you basically can also be resold and bought used, and they're not tied to your account. So I would say, in my view, the game key cards, even after a month after Switch 2 comes out, I still view them as kind of a double-edged sword. I understand the criticism, but I'm not completely losing sleep over it though. Well, recently during the the shareholders meeting in Nintendo, a question was asked about basically the whole game keycard situation, and judging by the response made by the president of Nintendo, there are those who believe that this was just basically dodging the question outright altogether, although you could come to your conclusion if you think that the president of Nintendo dodged the question or not. In an article from Nintendo Life, it reads that, quote, Nintendo has today published a transcript of its 85th annual general meeting of shareholders, in which company president Shakura Fakata, if I'm saying the name correctly, was asked comments on the Switch 2 game key cards release. As highlighted on BlueSky by Oatmeal Dome, the topic arose from one shareholder's announcement to the Nintendo director that they have concerns about the game key card format. Supposedly the question was asked. I've seen options on the internet saying that game key cards are unappealing, the investor said. I'm concerned if third-party titles using game key cards don't sell well, it will discourage third parties from supporting the Switch 2. The article also reads, it's a fair comment, particularly given the discord around third-party Switch 2 sales in recent weeks, although there are some analysts that have gone back and forth on this. Some are claiming that may not be the case. Others are pointing to Street Fighter 6, which despite being on a game key card, the claim is that that game is selling well, which if that's true, then that could be then it is possible that game key cards may not be a factor and all. But again, it depends on how you want to look at it. But anyway, this is supposedly they're claiming that Furukawa dodged the issue and everything like that. So this is what he had to say. Quote, we introduced the game key cards because game file sizes are larger on the Switch 2 compared to the Switch 1, the company president responds. We have various ways to distribute games on the Switch 2, and we are working with our third-party partners to ensure their support for our platform. Now, some are arguing the president of Nintendo is dodging the question, and that might be true. And it is also worth pointing out that supposedly the upcoming game WWE 2K25 is 70 gigabytes, which if that's true, I can see no argument in favor of the game key cards, nevertheless though. But still, I still view it's still going to be viewed as a controversial issue and all, and I would like to see Nintendo somehow address this issue to a certain degree. Maybe try to find a way to lower the cost of developers who want to put their game on a 64 gigabyte cartridge. Maybe see if it's possible to maybe get other file sizes, like maybe a 32 gigabyte, or maybe if that exists, or even like if there's a 16-bit gigabyte or 8 or 5 gigabyte, if that is a possibility and all. But in either case, though, it doesn't sound like game key cards are going to be going away anytime soon. Whether or not that could have an impact on the Switch 2 in the long run, in terms of some folks may not be buying these games and all, that remains to be seen. I'm aware that there are those on the internet who are coming out and making those kinds of claims, but at the same time, if the report about Street Fighter 6 selling well on the Switch 2 are true, then to me it doesn't sound like the game keycard situation is as widespread as some of the internet make it sound like it is. Again, I'm not saying 100% for certain, but it does kind of give that impression. Either way, it doesn't sound like the whole game keycard situation is going away anytime soon, but it is something I do think Nintendo may have to address at some point down the road. So overall, the game keycard controversy isn't going to go away, and while the president of Nintendo did respond to it, some are saying that he dodged the question or dodged the issue outright, and I kind of can see why some folks will see it that way, though. So yeah, it's not. Don't expect to see game key cards on the Switch 2 for a while and all. I mean, whether or not that could change down the road, again, that remains to be seen and everything. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2. And this one has to do with the founders of Xbox not happy, at least at the direction that Xbox has been going lately and all. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my 2 cent video. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at a comment made by one of the founders of Xbox in general, that are at least not happy with the direction that they have been going lately. Now, one of the things this generation we've seen so far that some might view as a controversial choice, though, has been Microsoft's approach lately to been going like supposedly to some extent a hybrid kind of approach, which is they'll go third party, but they're going to put out new hardware and all. And this certainly has kind of had different views. Some folks are not happy about this. Others believes it's the times now, and I think they're thinking Sony should join in as well. There's even some out there that think Nintendo should, although given the direction Nintendo's been going lately, it doesn't sound like they're going in that direction anytime soon. But in either case, though, there is certainly some divide depending on who you're asking. Some are okay with this, some aren't, though. Well, recently, one of the founders of Xbox basically put out a YouTube video called "The Future of Xbox," and at least according to this individual, they are not pleased with the direction that they are going and everything. In an article from Video Game Chronicles, it reads that a founding member of the Xbox team questioned Microsoft's multi-platform game strategy, though. Basically, this person, Friars Lays video, ponders on the future of Microsoft's Xbox business, with the platform holder championing new cross-platform strategy under its Xbox Anywhere market, and explaining why she's concerned it could represent the state of a slow exit from the gaming hardware business for Microsoft. In the video, Fryer called Xbox Anywhere messaging just marketing and style with no substance, and said she believes the ROG Xbox Ally as essential as one of ASUS's portable PC rebranding. It offers little attraction to consumers. She also goes in to say, obviously, as one of the founding members of Xbox team, I'm not pleased where things are today. I don't love watching all the value that I helped create slowly get eroded away, she said. I'm sad because from my perspective, it looks like Xbox has no desire or literally can't ship hardware anymore. So this ROG Ally partnership is about a slow exit from the hardware business completely. She continues, personally, I think Xbox hardware is dead. The plan appears to be just to drive everybody to Game Pass, and let's be clear, it has a lot of value. I think that might be why they decided to charge $80 for the Outer Worlds 2. And here's the thing, maybe it will work. Xbox has a deep portfolio. The remake of Oblivion was obviously a huge success, and they can continue to outsource that work to external companies and make a lot of money releasing their old games, older games from an era when Xbox knew how to build them. But what is the long-term plan? Where are the new hits? What will make people care about Xbox 25 years from now? I was excited to see Clockwork Revelation in the showcase, but will something like that be enough? Do they have more though? Next year's marks the 25th anniversary of Xbox. I'm sure they will have some big announcements and plans for honoring that milestone. Maybe next year is the year. Maybe next year is the year that the fog will clear and all of us will slowly see the beauty in these latest announcements. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. It is worth pointing out the article also mentions that although Microsoft is doing a multi-platform approach, they are committed to releasing the next-gen console to the success of the Xbox Series X and S. Meanwhile, the ex-Blizzard boss has sort of weighed in to some extent and basically feels like Microsoft needs to pick an Xbox strategy and stick with it. A quote that he mentioned, this is what he had to say, quote, "Tough to see Xbox confused about who it is and what it should be. Some great people still, they have to figure out what needs to change and fast. I'm a big fan and will always bleed green. Cheers to the team on from the sideline. Pick your lane and stick to it." Now, I will admit though that in terms of messaging, Microsoft has sort of been kind of all over the place in terms of what their strategy has always been and everything, ever since they decided to take this multi-platform approach though. It is in a way kind of confusing though. I do kind of agree that they need to pick a strategy and stick with it, because it does kind of give the impression that they're throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks and what doesn't though. So I kind of could see some of that argument though. Do I think Xbox is dead? I'm not really sure I would consider them dead, as it does seem to indicate that they are moving on with the next generation of consoles, so it doesn't sound like they are exiting the console race or anything like that. Side note, there were rumors saying that Phil Spencer was going to leave after the launch of the next system, but he's kind of came out and debunked that in a way though. But I will say messaging-wise has not been their strong point. I think they've, not done a great job in terms of giving a clear-cut message of what they are trying to do and all. Maybe we'll hear more about some of the stuff down the road. Maybe we'll hear, maybe they'll finally when everything clears out, maybe we'll finally get a good clear-cut vision of what Microsoft is trying to do with the Xbox brand. But I mean, there's some arguments I can understand what some of the Xbox founder is saying. Some of it I agree, some of it not so much, but it is a very interesting point nevertheless. So overall, I will say I do kind of agree to some extent though that when it comes to messaging, it does feel like that Microsoft strategy, as I mentioned before, it does kind of come off as basically they're throwing everything at the wall and seeing what does stick and what doesn't stick and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 3. And this one has to do with probably the big thing we've seen from Microsoft, and that is, unfortunately, a lot of layoffs and cancellations of certain games, to be exact. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my Two Cent video, and for this one we're going to be taking a look at some games being canceled by Xbox and unfortunately some layoffs. Now, one of the things we have seen so far in the past couple of years, for especially around this generation of consoles, is that we really have been seeing a lot of layoffs lately by a lot of studios and all out there. Some of that maybe they hired too many people, especially when COVID was going on and they had to let people go. But there have also been some questions about some of the decisions to lay off some of these employees and all. And Microsoft is no exception to this, to be exact though. There have been reports of some of the employees have been laid off here and there. Last year, there was the whole debacle with Tango Gameworks and how they decided to shut that studio down, which led to a lot of backlash towards the leadership at Microsoft and some of the decisions they're making, although Tango Gameworks has been purchased by another company and everything like that. And recently, this week, though, we learned that there were a lot of employees that were let go this week. And on top of that, a lot of games were basically canceled and everything. In several reports, though, this one, although from Nintendo Life, they are citing Bloomberg's Jason Schreier. They said that, quote, Microsoft has begun informing staff of huge second waves of job cuts this year, and the layoffs are expected to hit over 9,000 employees. In a report by Bloomberg, Jason Schreier, studio affected including King, the team behind Candy Crush, where around 200 staff, up to 10%, are being laid off. And ZeniMax Media, the parent company of Bethesda, staff has informed Schreier they weren't authorized to. Staff had informed Jason Schreier they weren't authorized to speak to the press. Other U.S.-based studios were told cuts later today, and the cuts go beyond the game division. Many who are losing their jobs today only found out about the incoming cuts due to a previous Bloomberg report. These layoffs followed the 2,000 cuts made in January 2024 and the closure of Tango Gameworks and Arcane Austin in May 2024. It's scary stuff, and it comes despite the fact that according to CNBC, $26 billion in net income and $70 billion in revenues from March quarter. As a result, it is reported the most profitable company in the S&P 500 index. IGN also reports that Microsoft Games head Phil Spencer has vague on details, telling staff in a memo that organized shifts and changes will be shared to your team leaders in the coming days, and he sort of has responded to this, including Matt Booty as well. It has also been confirmed that several games have also been canceled as well, as there's now been reports that Everwild has also been canceled, along with the Perfect Dark reboot that has also been canceled as well, as there are reports that the footage we saw was just a vertical slice and that the game was actually may not have been the real game and everything like that. But in either way, no matter how you slice and dice it, and this also includes Forza Motorsports that have been hit, although there's now been reports that the next-gen folks behind the next-gen are not impacted by this, or Kojima Productions, supposedly OD, that they're working with Microsoft on, has also not been impacted by this. But in either case, no matter how you look at this, this is certainly bad indeed. But what makes it more interesting is the fact that I think this throws into question some of the decision making over at the leadership at Microsoft and in the Xbox division in general. It raises question about, was it worth spending that $68 billion to buy the Activision Blizzard? It also comes off at the time when they are reporting record profits, which kind of sort of sounds similar to the situation we saw a couple years ago with Activision Blizzard, where despite reporting record profits, they still laid off a lot of employees while the higher ups give themselves bonuses. Not to mention there's allegations that seems that Microsoft and Xbox are all in on AI, so it brings up that situation. But in either case, this is still not great indeed. And it does raise questions about the structure of the company, the structure and the strategy for the Xbox division itself. And as I mentioned before with the part 2 with Xbox founders not happy and all, it does give the impression that they're just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks and what doesn't. And that's the case and everything like that. And to hear these games get canceled, it's very tough for a lot of Xbox fans and all. And it could have an impact once they do announce their next gen console and everything. It just feels like that Microsoft didn't learn anything when they closed Lionhead Studio. It didn't seem like they learned anything with Tango Gameworks and how that situation played out. And many would consider they are going to learn the lesson from this situation indeed. And it just raises the question, was it worth buying all these studios only to have some of these studios and some of these employees let go and everything? So it raises a lot of questions about Microsoft's strategy in general, and that is a little bit unfortunate indeed and all. So I'm hope these employees can are able to get back on their feet and find new jobs and everything like that. But it definitely raises some serious questions about Xbox and some of the decision making going on. So overall, very unfortunate to hear games like Perfect Dark, the reboot, and get canceled and all, plus other games as well. and very unfortunate to see some of these employees being fired, but I do not deny it raises questions about not only the strategy that Xbox is doing, but it also raises questions about some of the decision the leadership is making. And it does wonder, are these people still the right people to lead the Xbox division itself? It does sort of raise that question indeed and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 4, our fourth and final part. And this one has to do with supposedly a petition being started entitled Stop Killing Games. So we'll take a quick break and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at a so-called petition that has recently started called Stop Killing Games. And apparently it may have at least hit like 1 million signatures and everything like that. Now, one of the things we've seen, it's particularly with especially games that are like live services and all, is that we've seen how those games are sold at full price, but eventually the developers or the publishers who work on the games would usually stop working on them and shut everything down and all, and you're basically stuck with what many view as like a frisbee or a coaster and all. The good example is recently with Anthem, EA and BioWare have decided to shut that game down, and those who purchase the physical version, you're pretty much stuck with a coaster or a frisbee, to be exact. And this has led to some criticisms, especially from in the gaming community. Some view it as anti-consumer practices. Others feel like the developers don't do anything like maybe have an offline mode for the game for people to enjoy if they enjoy the game and everything like that. Well, recently there has been a push by at least one YouTuber, which basically is called Stop Killing Games, which is a petition for the government to kind of step in and basically do something about it, especially with some of these publishers pulling like what I talked about with Anthem, although The Crew is another example, to be exact. From its website, though, it reads that, quote, Stop Killing Games is a consumer movement started to challenge the legacy of publishers destroying video games they have sold to consumers. An increased number of video games are sold effectively as good with no slated expiration date, but designed to be completely unplayable as soon as support from the publisher ends. This practice is a form of planned obsolescence, if I'm saying the name correctly, and it's not only determined to consumers, but makes preservation effectively impossible. Furthermore, the legitimacy of this process is largely untested in many countries. Over the past years, we have successfully escalated complaints on this problem to consumer agencies in France, Germany, and Australia, and have brought forward petitions for new law on this problem to various countries. A list of actions taken to date can be viewed here. They have a click on it. As of 2025, most consumer action in this manner has concluded, and we are awaiting decision from several governments. However, there are a few remaining avenues where people can participate if they are eligible. As of the recording, though, so far the petition supposedly has hit 1 million signatures, and this is supposedly aimed for Europe at this time. However, an update from Push Square has indicated, at least from an update after how supposedly the story broke, it reads that, quote, in a video update from Accursed Farm, the YouTuber behind Stop Killing Game campaign, a few issues with the petition has been raised. It turned out there are some errants and spoof entries which is bolstering the polls and will result in thousands of signatures being tossed out. Now, remains to be seen if this petition will still go through and everything like that. But continuing on is that the bottom line is, while the campaign has reached the 1 million signature milestones, there's still a long way to go. If you haven't signed it yet, consider doing so. Probably, by the link and everything. Now, it remains to be seen if this petition will have any kind of impact or not. It's possible it might. It's possible it might not. I mean, I remember back in 2017 when Star Wars Battlefront 2 came out and the whole loot box controversy broke out. I believe a legislator or at least, a member of, the legislator in Hawaii tried to push for, the idea of regulating, going after these companies that put loot boxes in these like premium games and everything like that. I don't know, I'm not 100% sure that went far, but it certainly put, I think, a lot of publishers and developers on notice about the whole controversy, indeed. And it is possible this thing could happen, though. Whether it does or not remains to be seen, but I don't disagree with what the purpose of this petition is trying to aim for. And I do think it does raise a good point, especially when you see developers push the whole live service kind of situation and so forth, and put those games out, and then a couple years later they shut them down, especially ones where they charge full price for you to pay to buy these games and everything like that. I mean, I do see the point of this petition. It remains to be seen if it will get far, and it also remains to be seen if it will come here to the US, but I don't disagree with what this YouTuber is trying to aim for. It's just it remains to be seen whether this YouTuber will succeed or not. So overall, like I said, we don't know if this petition will be a success or not, but I certainly am not against what they are trying to aim for, and I do think it is I would say, good cause of what this YouTuber is aiming to address a lot of these, issues of those who purchase these always online games and then have these publishers and developers decide to shut it down when they decided we're ending support and everything like that. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about the Nintendo's president's response to the whole game key card situation? Do you think that they are dodging the question entirely, though? Do you think it's a valid point that they brought up? Do you think game key cards are here to stay, or do you think there will be a point where Nintendo may phase out the game key cards altogether? And do you think they'll find a way to lower the price for the 64 gigabyte cartridge, or do you think we could see other file size at some point down the road for the Switch 2? What are your thoughts about the Xbox founder and even the ex-Blizzard responding to the current strategy Microsoft is doing with Xbox in general? Do you think the Xbox founder is right in terms of some of the direction that Microsoft has been going, or do you think she is wrong? And do you think the former one of the CEO of Blizzard is correct in saying that Microsoft needs to find the lane and stick to that strategy for the Xbox brand going forward? What are your thoughts about basically hearing several games like Everwild to Perfect Dark being canceled and over 9,000 jobs being laid off in general, though? Do you think that these were justifiable? Do you think that there's mismanagement at Xbox in general? To be exact, though, do you think they could have handled this situation? Do you think Microsoft or like the heads like Phil Spencer or Sarah Bond or Matt Booty could have handled this situation better in any way? Do you think the head of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, if I'm saying his name correctly, is also to be blamed for the current situation with the Xbox gaming division? And what are your thoughts about this Stop Killing Games petition and all? Do you think this petition is justifiable? Do you agree with what this YouTuber is saying in terms of having, these games that have always online connections, how some of these developers will just, once they've done support, they'll just shut them down and you're stuck with a Frisbee or a Kosher or something like that? You think it was right to at least find some way for game preservation? Or do you think this YouTuber is wrong in any way? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal Me, Patreon, or Steamlamp. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this either on YouTube or Patreon. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!